Bitcoin just broke its all-time high again, and this time it's different. Today, Bitcoin is at approximately $117,000 to $118,000, setting a new record. If you're new to Bitcoin, you might be wondering, why now? What changed? And what does all this have to do with something called M2, the global money supply? Let's break it all down in simple terms. First, this price surge didn't come out of nowhere. It's the result of several powerful forces building up over the past year. We've had a wave of demand from both retail investors and big institutions. Spot Bitcoin ETFs, which were approved in the US in early 2024, opened the floodgates for traditional investors to finally buy Bitcoin, not through complicated exchanges, but through platforms they already use. And now, in 2025, we're seeing pension funds, hedge funds, and even governments slowly dip their toes into Bitcoin. Another major demand driver is the massive growth in Bitcoin treasury companies, the biggest of them all, MicroStrategy, or Strategy as it's called now, owning almost 600,000 Bitcoin. At the same time, Bitcoin supply is becoming more and more scarce. Remember, only 21 million Bitcoins will ever exist, and over 93% of them have already been mined. On top of that, we had the Bitcoin halving in April 2024, which cut the new supply in half. So with more demand and less supply, prices start to rise. But there's an even bigger force at play that many people overlook, and that's global M2, the total amount of money circulating in the world economy. So what exactly is M2? Think of M2 as the combined total of everyone's cash, checking accounts, savings accounts, and other easily accessible money. It's basically how much money is floating around that people can use. When central banks print money or lower interest rates, M2 increases. When they tighten the money supply by raising rates or selling assets, M2 decreases. In 2022 and 2023, central banks like the US Federal Reserve were tightening the money supply to fight inflation. Rates were high and people were pulling back on spending. Bitcoin struggled during that time, dropping far below its previous highs. But in late 2024 and into 2025, things started to shift. Global inflation cooled down, but economies were slowing too. To stimulate growth again, central banks began easing. That means lowering interest rates and increasing the supply of money. And when M2 goes up, people start looking for assets that can hold their value. They want to protect their wealth from potential currency devaluation. That's where Bitcoin comes in. Unlike dollars, euros, or yen, Bitcoin can't be printed or inflated away. Its supply is fixed. It's predictable. And as more people around the world begin to understand that, Bitcoin is increasingly being viewed as digital gold, a hedge against central bank policies and money printing. Here's the big picture. From 2010 to now, Bitcoin has moved in clear cycles, and those cycles tend to follow changes in global liquidity. When M2 surges, like it did after COVID in 2020, Bitcoin goes parabolic. When M2 tightens, like in 2022, Bitcoin pulls back. But now in 2025, we're back in an expansionary phase, and Bitcoin is reacting exactly as expected. So if you're wondering why Bitcoin just hit a new all-time high, here's the answer. A supply shock from the halving historic demand from institutions and global investors, and a rising tide of money flowing into the system, aka a rising M2 Bitcoin, didn't randomly moon. It's responding to real macroeconomic signals. And that's why understanding things like M2, even as a beginner, is so powerful, because it helps you see the bigger picture. Bitcoin isn't just going up, it's doing what it was designed to do: hold its value in a world where money gets printed and printed and printed. So what happens next? That depends on what the world's central banks do, how fast demand grows, and whether the public continues waking up to the idea that a scarce digital asset might just be the safest place to store value. Thanks for watching. This is Bitcoin for Beginners. Hit that like and subscribe if you're learning something new each week, and let us know in the comments, do you think Bitcoin is just getting started, or are we near the top?